America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I'll call this 4th of April Human Services Committee meeting into order. I just want to make a quick statement that last Friday the legislature took the steps necessary to begin an investigation of the facts and circumstances that led up to the tragic death of Jordan Brooks while in the care of his mother and stepfather, and also to study the staffing and practices at the Department of Social Services to see if there are any actions that might be taken to improve our response to any similar situation. These investigations are not controlled by this committee, therefore there will be no further actions or statements today regarding the Brooks case. We'll stick strictly to our agenda. With that, I'll call for approval of the minutes.
Make a motion.
Sorry.
Any changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes carried. HS1, it's a resolution authorizing budget modification, Department of Social Services to accept non-custodial parent employment program funds in the amount of $43,290. This is through.
This is TANF funding, so it's 100% federal funding, and it's intended to provide employment services to non-custodial parents who are either unemployed or underemployed so that they can get better employment and be able to pay their child support.
Does anybody have any questions on the committee?
Is this in addition to what you have now?
It's an additional part of that allocation.
Any other questions?
I make a motion.
All those in favor? Oh, no, need a second.
Second.
Thank you. I should call that. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. HS2 is a resolution authorizing budget modification, Department of Social Services to accept Employment Recovery National Dislocated Worker Grant funding. This is in the amount of $29,371.44.
So again, this funding is 100% federal funding, and it is, Employment Recovery National Dislocated Worker Grant. So it's intended to provide employment services to people who have been adversely affected by COVID over the past couple of years.
Thank you. I'll look for a motion
So moved.
and a second.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. HS3 is a resolution authorizing budget modification, Department of Social Services to transfer funds into administration and overtime. My understanding is this has to do with the third round of heat and some vacancies that we had is $5,000. I'll look for a motion first.
Motion.
Have a second?
So the county, or our building in particular, has had difficulty being able to hire enough community services workers who are the primary staff that provide our heat services in our building. As a result, our existing staff have had to work more additional hours and overtime in order to meet the demands of the program.
Any questions?
Is that funding closed? Still
No,
open?
it's extended through April 29th.
29th. Thank you.
But it's capped in an amount, like normal heat is.
Our admin, yes.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. HS4, it's a resolution updating the DSS Mental Hygiene School-Based Mental Health Clinic Project and updating Resolution 052 from 2019. I'll look for a motion.
Make a motion.
Sorry.
You got a second?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for answering all our questions over the weekend and promptly. They were all answered to my satisfaction. I talked to Legislator Stahl. They were answered to his satisfaction as well. Do you want to speak to the motion a little bit, or to the resolution?
Yeah, the resolution is a request to provide some flexibility to what the legislature originally approved when the RFP award was issued. So specifically, given some of the delays with the COVID-19 pandemic, and disruptions that had on school operations, we really essentially lost a year worth of development time. So with the award was for 1 year with 4 years of renewal. So we've been set back a little bit in regards to that, being able to establish new school-based sites in our prioritized districts. So I'm requesting that for a couple of different things, to be able to have a renewal or extend the renewal period for another 2 years off of this original RFP to allow us the opportunity to make up for that lost time, as well as to allow for some flexibility of potential future delays due to some of the workforce and recruitment issues that everyone is encountering, and also the opportunity to work with additional, where we already have sites that we've developed in the last couple of years, if it's needed, to be able to expand capacity at those sites as well, based on the increasing need that the students we're seeing within the students across the county.
And COVID has created additional need.
Absolutely.
You seem to have made great strides in getting a lot more of these in the schools.
Thank you.
I was, and like I said, I was really happy with your responses over the weekend. Does anybody else have any questions? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. I'm sorry, let me, be ahead of myself. Okay, HS5 is a resolution authorizing budget modification, Department of Social Services, Mental Hygiene Division to accept New York State, we call that OASIS State Aid, OASAA State Aid. Yeah, and the amount of $76,911.
There's actually three
Oh, yeah,
separate amounts in
right.
total.
The total is what, is the 150 to Arbor House, community residence, then 7691, and then an additional 500.
Yes.
Okay, three different places.
500,000,
Oh,
500,000.
so altogether,
227, 411.
thank you. Okay. I'll look for a motion.
Make a motion.
Second.
Any questions? Do you want to speak to this one a little bit?
Sure, so, the state agencies are supplying a COLA increase in funding levels for both minimum wage adjustments for some programs that need that, minimum wages because rising each year, as well as the 5.4% COLA that they're passing through. So that's the $76,911 for the OASIS funding. $150,000 is one-time funding allocated to OCO's Arbor House community residents to replace the roof on that residence, as well as to do some kitchen repairs. The $500 is a one-time funding to allow OCO to be able to purchase patient medication lockboxes for their supported living apartment program, which is also both Arbor House and the supported living program are residential services for people with substance abuse disorders.
And that is all New York State, 100% New York State funding, no local share.
Correct.
Any questions? We have a motion and a second, correct? So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. HS6 is a resolution authorizing budget modification, Department of Social Services, Mental Hygiene Division to accept New York State OPWDD State Aid. I'll look for a motion,
Second.
and then that is in the amount of $27,488.
And this is for minimum wage increase and COLA adjustments. So this will be recurring funding for OPWDD.
Oh, good, okay.
So for the new legislators, OPWDD is Office of People with Developmental Disabilities.
Disabilities, yes. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. HS6. Oh,
Second.
I just did HS6. Keep my numbers straight here, HS7, resolution authorizing budget modification, Department of Social Services, Mental Hygiene Division to accept New York State OMH state aid, and that is in the amount of $283,366. Look for a motion.
So, in that total amount, $110,241 is COLA adjustments, which would be recurring funding for our existing funded programs with our local agencies. There is a new one-time revenue that's been added for Oswego County, and each county is giving this funding. We are giving $100,000 to develop a Dwyer Veteran Peer-to-Peer Support Program. At this point, that's one-time funding, so this is a new initiative for the state to be able to put this out to the county, so I need to do a little more work with that and with our Veterans Office to figure out exactly what we can do with $100,000 to implement a new program. But it's part of what they've allocated to each county, and I'm sure it's a valuable program. I'm just not sure what one-time funding of $100,000, how far that will really get us with developing a new service. But we're getting it, so we're going to do our best to fund it and initiate a program. The $73,125 is recurring funding from the Office of Mental Health for increases to our supported housing stipends program, which is run by Oswego County Opportunities. So that's additional funding that will directly support individuals who are living in their own apartments. And Oswego County is supported by this program so they can maintain quality living situation.
Okay, any questions?
So, are you gonna use Veterans Office as a referral for that, or are you gonna set up your own
That's
process?
all very good questions. So none of that, do I have any
Stay
answers to
tuned.
at this point? Yes.
Oh, we'll take the money and then you can let us know.
We'll take the money and figure out how we can do it. But yeah, we certainly need to do some local planning, because this is not a situation where we doing planning locally and then sought out the funding. The funding will be provided to us for this purpose.
Okay.
Any other questions? Chanel, I had a first and second on this one, right?
Yes, you did.
All those in favor? Any opposed? It's kind of funny when all of a sudden there's a dog kicking you in the leg. Jump
She
out
probably
the
should
chair.
hear shirt. One power board, good
Look,
luck.
you're making my shivers low. Woo! It scared me. There, head on the roof though. Take it off, hold on. All right. HS8 is a resolution determining that the proposed Camp Hollis Ready project is a type 1 action and will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment for CO.25 Camp Hollis Ready project. I'll look for a motion.
Motion.
I got a second from Mike Earden, okay? Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Standard procedure for the seeker to put this forward to the town.
Okay, any questions?
What project?
This is the house, the bluff erosion.
The what?
The bluff
The
erosion?
bluff?
Bluff Road, oh, okay, yeah. Do you wanna, this is what you have, the map?
Yeah, I was gonna talk about that after, but, so you do have a map that.
No, we're gonna go do it now.
Okay. So Barton and Judas, who are the engineers, they put together a preliminary plan. And this is we had a meeting last week to review the drawings and basically talk about the plan they're gonna put forward to the regulators. But putting it forward to you here today so that you're understanding of what it is they're doing. So I did include the drawings that the engineers had put together. And we were on a call last week, the county administrator and Legislator Rigo, among others, and I were on a call with Park and Lagunas to discuss.
Right, so if you look at the map, not the map, I mean the second page, that gives you a little better sense of what's happening with the bluffs there. They're gonna cut down some of the top, use that, use the material, someplace else they're gonna create a little ditch at the top behind the fence, a little flat spot there with trees and such in the middle, and then there's gonna be huge boulders and then the small stone, similar to what's already there at the lake front at the bottom. So then the the color picture just kind of shows, you know, from like a top view down.
As you can see, the drawings do not require us at this point in time to move any fencing or anything. Everything will be less than fence.
I did already get a motion, so any, did I get a motion? Making sure.
Yes, you did.
Okay, I thought so. I'm just trying to do them first. And then I don't always remember.
So, in the drawing with the stone down there, are they using gabions?
Using what?
Are they using the gabions, the big wire containers?
To be
Good
determined.
question. I don't think,
Yeah, we didn't discuss that in the
So
initial.
how are they gonna secure that against the initial problem? Just the size of the stone will stop it?
I believe that is part of the plan, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
the stone at the bottom is essentially, I mean, multi-100-pound boulders. So they're not really, they don't think that's gonna go anywhere. It's the stuff on the top.
I think that's riprap down the bottom.
Riprap, yeah, you're right.
Riprap, the big heavy stuff. If you look at the slope up there, higher up, it's a 5 and 1.5, looks like 1.5 to 1, which is a pretty general slope for the erosion, you know what I'm saying? That's what they're doing there, with trees up on that.
So there'll no longer be a cliff.
Correct.
Not as steep as it was before.
It will be
Well, it was
vegetation.
pretty steep, it could just drop off.
Correct. Yeah, so and there will be vegetation in there.
Yeah.
Okay,
And the
See
root
what-
system will also,
You see where the existing grade is on the side here? When you look back, that's the dotted line, and then the solid line back further, so, 1.5 to 1 slope is a pretty gentle slope. Pretty steep.
So besides seeker getting done,
That's what it was.
the point that we're at with this is that they're asking DEC to review this now. So we're waiting for DEC's approval.
correct.
If we get DEC's approval and we need further information, we can actually either have another meeting with the, well, we're gonna have to have another meeting with the engineers anyways, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
so where does that put your timetable versus opening up the camp?
We're good. With the way we've got the timetable designed, this initial work is all gonna be done right now with the intent to hopefully do construction in the fall.
Okay, so there's nothing there for the camp?
No, they know that there's no interruption of camp.
You're gonna fence that off different while camp's open?
There won't be anything going on during camp. I mean, there'll be no construction going on during camp.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. HS 9 is very similar. It's a resolution determining that the proposed Independence Trail Ready project is a type 1 action and will not have significant adverse impact on the environment for CO.34 Independence Trail Ready project. Look for a motion.
Take a motion.
So,
All
So
right.
this is similar to that. The only difference is there's nothing for you to look at for drawings yet because this project is a little bit behind Camp Hollis. So the plan for this one is no construction until 2023. So they're moving it along, but some of the work that needed to be done is weather related. So now that spring is kind of here, they'll be able to proceed with what they need to do, but it's not as far along as Camp Hollis.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. HS 10 is a resolution authorizing budget modification youth bureau, additional 2021 New York State leave for runway and homeless youth. Oops, dropped my paper. What's the amount of that, Brian?
The amount on this one is $13,148.80.
All right, look for a motion.
Take a motion.
Second. A motion and a second. You want to speak to this a little bit more?
In a nutshell, New York State had some unspent money in their RHY line from another county. They reached out to me asking if they thought we could use it. I immediately reached out to, I got through our administration, and yes, we absolutely could use it. So this is to add the money, it's 2021 money, but it would be used immediately.
Any questions? So are we gonna see a little bit more of a plan on what's going on later, or?
We could, communication with OCL, that they'll be working on this, but yes, absolutely, because they'll have to amend their agreement with me, so I can absolutely share that with you.
Okay. All right, so for the seeker, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. I do not see our veterans director, so we're gonna skip our veterans department updates and skip over to Brian Chetney and the Oswego City County Youth Bureau. You wanna start with Joe?
Absolutely, I'm gonna pass the floor over to Joe.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. I'm just here to talk about a request that came in for the Independence Park property. I'll give you a little bit of a background on it first, and then we'll get into the request itself. So in 2021, I approached the legislature, this particular committee, with regards to the hemlock woolly adelgid, which is an invasive species that attacks hemlock, and it can cause mortality in about a decade. So at Independence Park, that's of particular significance because there's a lot of hemlock trees there. It's a recreational area, so you do have a safety impact when you're talking mortality, even if it's slow decline and eventual death of those trees. There's hundreds of trees there, and we did do a survey at one point. We partnered with another agency for that. And with the permission of the legislature last year, we did start treatments. So we did some pesticide treatments on about 100 trees, and we have it planned for about another 200 trees at Independence Park alone this year. As long as we can get we do have a wetlands permit that we're in the process of getting. We should have that hopefully within the next few weeks, and early May we should be doing a treatment. That aside, we did get we did get a request from the New York State Hemlock Initiative, which is an organization that's part of Cornell University, and they have a means of controlling the hemlock woolly adelgid that is it's considered a biocontrol. So they do have 4 insects that they've released, and these insects have been studied for anywhere from 1 decade to 2 decades. They do have documented releases. And they're looking for sites in New York State to release these that actually prey on the hemlock woolly adelgid. So they're very specialized insects. 2 of the species are a beetle in the Laricopius genus. Another couple species are considered silver flies, and both of these do have a predatory nature towards the hemlock woolly adelgid. With that said, it's been studied by this organization. It's been approved by USDA APHIS, and there have been no known negative impacts. So what they're looking to do is they're looking to release that at Independence Park. They visited the property, the organization, the Hemlock Initiative. They found that was a great site for a few different reasons. One of them is that we are actively treating with pesticides, and they want that as part of an integrated pest management approach. The other is that it's very close to the lake shore, so you have some mitigated climate issues there. And then the third reason is that it's been known to be found in the Finger Lakes region, and we're kind of on the gateway to the Tug Hill and then the Adirondacks. So we're sort of at the leading edge of the infestation. So they want to try to get some control here. And I think that, and with that kind of mitigated climate of the lake shore, you have a good chance of these beetles and silver flies taking off, gaining control at some point. So this isn't an overnight fix by any means. You still have to continue with the pesticide treatments. And right now, we have this year planned, funded, that sort of thing. That's something we'll be looking to fund down the road with, or perhaps approach the county. But I think right now we're looking for funding for continued maintenance of that of those trees. But this is something that's actually no cost to the county. It's fully funded by the New York Hemlock Initiative. They would be taking care of any of the monitoring that takes place afterwards. Really just looking to monitor the insects. They're released in a couple different ways. Anything from what's called a free release, which is literally a jar open up and insects go out and do their thing, to maybe some netting placed in the woods, in the forest, and those insects crawl out at their given time. And then the monitoring, really very low impact. There may be some branches removed, things like that, branch sampling, some flagging in the park. That's about it. Other than that, it's really just a good benefit. So probably an outlook would be it may take upwards of a decade for these to build up into a population that would actually be able to control the population. But if you don't start now, you have an awful lot of lost time. It's not a guarantee that it would be released. Anything would be released this year. However, if we had the approval anytime today, certainly if you have questions and want to table this, that's fine. But if we get that in the near future and we're able to say yes to this, then hopefully later this fall, maybe next year, we'd be looking at getting a release, and we can kind of get things going with hopefully a buildup of those populations and get
Is this
HWA
something
under
that the
control.
state would pay for, or the?
So it's all fully funded by the New York Hemlock Initiative. Part of so I'm sure there's state funding involved, but it's all part of Cornell University. So it's part of their
Are
research
these
and study.
indigenous species to the area?
So there's a couple different. There's 3 of the species are from the Pacific Northwest. One is from Japan, and that is why that part I know that can have certain connotations that you're obviously introducing an exotic species, but they have extensively studied these, and they do have an actual release permit from the USDA, APHIS, Animal and Plant Health Inspection Services. So they are, fully approved to be able to let these go with, and they're very specialized too, in that they only prey on the hemlock woolly
Can you
adults.
direct us to a place where we can read about this?
Absolutely, I can get some more information to you for sure.
Okay. Legislator Yearden?
Yeah. Where have they used this procedure? Somewhere else in the country?
They've actually released in the northeast, several different states, and they've actually done over the past few years. They've actually released I believe it's tens of thousands of these insects and
Any
beetles.
specific place locally?
Not that I could pinpoint on a map, but
In the Adirondack Hill region?
no, I think this would be the furthest into this into the northeast of this state. Primarily, it's been down like in the Hudson Valley, Hudson River Valley.
The only time I hear of a product from, a foreign product, totally foreign from the country itself, from China or someplace like Japan, that concerns me somewhat because, sometimes the cure becomes worse than the original problem, okay? Because what's happening, once they get this under control, I mean, what are they going to feed on? The bugs? Die or what's the process?
It's my understanding the population declines if there isn't hemlock woolly adulgid around, and that's why they were. So 2 points to that is one is that the likelihood that we would get the beetle the beetle from Japan is really low. I guess they're in very low supply right now, and that's not likely. It would probably be the Pacific Northwest beetles. And then the reason that they are looking at our site is we do have a pretty fair buildup of the hemlock woolly adulgid, and that's why they want that insect for them to be able to feed on.
So what is your success rate with the pesticides that last year we talked about?
It's pretty new into it. We still have some monitoring to do on it. As far as what we were able to treat, it was not a very high percentage of what's out there yet. We do need those other permits to move forward, and we still have probably 2/3 of the property to go yet. But as far as the success, we do have to get into things a little bit more before we can start looking at the success rate of that.
So you're going to treat the same area again, or are you going to expand it out?
We'll expand into other areas of Independence Park. So last year we treated Independence Park and probably the 24 trees that were at Camp Hollis. That's pretty much done for the next few years. you know, you can only re-enter these areas every, you know, they only need it every like 3 to 5 years retreatment. So the trees that we did last year should be fine for 3 to 5 years, and then we'll move on to the other ones that we can access.
So last year is still remain flagged this year then, or do you?
So we do have them tagged. We have them, they have round metal discs at the bottom, so that, and that we'll either use some sort of a number system or a color coding system to make sure that we're not retreating trees. And then as far as the beetles, they would make sure that those are distributed, you know, evenly throughout the property.
What's the timeline?
So this, we're unlikely to have any kind of a spring release on this, but it would likely be in the fall. There isn't anything. I mean, if for some reason, you know, if you'd like to, you know, table this, if you do want more information, that's perfectly fine. I think that right now they're looking at the fall if they're able to get you know, what they need, the beetles and things like that. So there is a chance. I mean, as I said, that it's not necessarily guaranteed. It may go into next year or something like that, but that's the tentative plan now, is for a release of the beetle in the fall.
I mean, I personally would be more comfortable reading more about it before I approve something like this. So if we could wait a month, if everybody's okay with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I gotta learn how to say that word in the book.
I can't say any of those bug names, but, you know, this kind of thing just kind of worries me. I remember with those bugs, they used to call in Florida the love bugs or whatever. Like a couple of years later, you couldn't drive down the highways without running into 8,000 of them. And I was like,
That's like the.
12 years
like
old.
Ladybugs, I mean, there's, being introduced to those, these multiply like crazy. I mean, you know what I'm saying? They're everywhere.
Yeah, so I'd really like to read a little bit more about it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, Brian, you have a further update?
Well, thank you, Joe. As you can see, I was not going to try to explain that one. So I have some more things here, my notes on my phone here. So a couple of different things. Give me an update for Camp Hollister. Day camp has 246 registered campers right now. That's 98% full already for the summer. Overnight camp, our number's around 110. Compared to May of last year, we were at 105, so we are ahead of that pace. The playground is going to start to be put together. That you guys approved that in the fall. It's all on site now and it's starting to be assembled. Highway was out there flattening the property for us. The new stove, the new electric stove that we put, the electric work was done on that last week, so we're good to go there. For staffing, we're still in need of some counselors, lifeguards, which we will be holding a certification in June, so you don't have to be certified yet. An assistant kitchen manager and evening security guard. You can go to our webpage for that. At Camp Zerby, on Saturday, we hosted our family fun days, and there was 50 people who showed up for the Oreo cookie 110th birthday. And the participants played different cookie-related games, and it was a good opportunity to meet our new camp director. And again, sharing with you on that Camp Zerby summer camp is sold out already for the summer, so we're in good shape for that. A couple other things, and I'll pass out as we go along. During spring break next week, we do have some events happening for the kids while they're out of school. I'll give you those flyers and our AmeriCorps program. Continuing to talk about that, there are a lot of job opportunities this summer, and I will give you all the information on that. But if you want to share that, you know, in your constituents, we can do so. But that's really about it right now. Things are moving fast with summer fastly approaching, and my staff is back in schools and such, so things are good.
How are things going with the AmeriCorps program?
AmeriCorps going well. We have, like I said, things are moving right along with it. Summer's our busiest time. There are lots of job opportunities, but also this is the time where we're starting to see many applicants coming in, and we're starting up all the interview process for the summer.
Any questions for Brian? Okay, on to Department of Social Services and the Workforce New York Career Center update. Rachel, do you want to introduce, have you been in front of the committee before?
A couple questions, a couple times, but not a big
Can
presentation
you just
at all.
introduce yourself?
I'm Rachel Pierce, Director of Employment and Training with Department of Social Services, and I'm the Director at the Workforce New York Career Center in Fulton. So what I shared today was actually PowerPoint that I typically present to agencies. I've done it at a couple of high schools in the area recently. businesses, Q Community College, I've done within the past year. But what I wanted to share with you all, kind of go through the PowerPoint with the services, but give some numbers of where we're at. We did reopen with the pandemic back in July of 2020 and have been offering these services all along to really help the businesses and the job seekers in the area. But we do have, for job seekers, anyone that does come into our center, we can serve them if they're below the self-sufficiency level, which is $25 an hour. In our county, we can help them with resumes, job searching tips, cover letters, where to look for jobs. We do have a lot of people that haven't done online applications before. So we do help a lot with that. Along with offering workshops, computer classes, workshops typically on those same topics, whether it's resume writing, using social media for your job search, understanding the civil service process, intro to computer classes, and then we also do have a contract with a certified instructor for different Microsoft Office programs. We have been having our classes run monthly, and I had, as of February, my numbers that I have are from July of 2021 through February of this year, and we had 33 people attend our in-person computer classes, which are either one day or a half a day. So those numbers have stayed a little lower than what they were pre-pandemic, but they are increasing. Different training opportunities that we do have for our adults and also our young adults that come in. We do have scholarship funding that we can offer anywhere from up to $10,000 towards a program that will lead to employment in the in-demand industry as long as the program is 24 months or less. As of this program year, we have offered, what do I have here, about 14 scholarships for our young adults, which is 18 to 24, and we're at approximately 70 for adults, which they range typically from healthcare to, we've been getting a lot of CDL requests, whether it is a B or an A, and a lot of these scholarships, the majority are through City BOCES programs. We do fund a majority of their students that go through, and typically we're looking to make it so these students do not have to take any loans and their entire tuitions are covered when they do finish, so they don't have that burden. We have our Metrics e-learning program, which is 24/7 access to self-paced online learning that people can do on their phone, on their personal computer. They can also come into the center and use our computers as well. That is also the system that we use to help Hudamaki with their pre-employment assessments. So on a weekly basis, we actually do test all of the applicants that Hudamaki has. We have staff that go on site. And since July, they have tested 284 applicants for Hudamaki. And how that process is going right now is those applicants, they come in, they take their pre-assessment, which really tests their mechanical reasoning and some of their reading comprehension. And right now, because of the need that Hudamaki has, everyone is being offered a position. If they show up for the exam, it's just contingent on background check and physical and drug and alcohol screening that Hudamaki has to do.
How many are successfully going through that? Because I know they have a major problem.
They do have,
Positions.
I don't have a number for that. We don't get their hire list usually a couple months after. But I believe last I heard, after 1 year, they have about a 20% turnover rate within a year for people.
Okay.
But yeah, they have a lot of need in all different areas. The ones we don't test, when they do have like mechanic positions open, we do try to send applicants right to them as well and get them sped through the process more.
So outside of Hudamaki, is the metrics program pretty, how is that being received? How many people, do you know, have a sense of how many people are signed up?
Right now, we've got about 40 licenses that are currently going. I think about early 2021, we actually implemented it as a required program for some of our public assistance recipients as well, so that we can set them up with a work readiness curriculum of about 10 to 12 courses to make sure that they have the skills to obtain and retain employment as well. And all of our youth participants that go into a work experience program also take a few of those work readiness courses to start.
And I have another question. Go back to your CDL.
Yeah.
I was at the Transportation Committee, and they have a program to put people through to get their CDL to become bus drivers.
Mm-hmm.
And they've had some difficulty with that. They finally had some success. And unfortunately, out of, I think it was 7 that passed, 5 of them went into the trucking and said, no, I don't want to drive a central bus. Do you have a scope with your CDL, or is it just the money to pay for the training and then they decide?
Typically, with the scholarships I'm talking about, we do have a lot of students that come in and they go to NTTS in Liverpool, which they do. That school does have a lot of flexible scheduling with their programs. But with the program you're talking about too, we did partner with OCO and Centro and Mobility Management with the transportation. Yep, to do the CDLB for OCO and Centro to get bus drivers. And we are actually in the planning process right now. And partnering with BOCES for a training program to run over the summer, hopefully about a 2-week intensive training to recruit bus drivers to be ready for the school year to go to the school districts.
Yeah, it's not bad that they go into the trucking industry, because hopefully that helps that.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, the program was kind of created to say exactly what you're pointing out, central schools, those type of things. And it seems like once they got it, they said, that doesn't pay enough, so I'm glad you paid for this, because they get a wage too under the transportation program.
That program, how we did it, so we're running a little different. The one in the fall, we did do, it was considered an on-the-job training, so they were getting wages while they're training, but that's because OCO was doing the training.
Okay.
But this time around, since BOCES would be doing the training, the trainees would not be receiving a wage, but they will not have to pay out of pocket for any of the tuition or DMV costs.
Okay, is the transportation money still doing the wage, or are you still partnered with them?
We're providing the scholarship funding, which through BOCES, the tuition includes the DMV fees. So
Okay.
Transportation, they're gonna do the recruiting and the screening, but the money-wise, they will not be
Got it.
contributing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Going through here. So additional services that we do have for job seekers, supportive services, which actually we have seen a lot of requests for supportive services. Those that are going through the training scholarships, we do help with their books, and sometimes there are testing fees for their certifications at the end. We have been getting more requests for clothing, shoes, tools, equipment, anything that is being requested of an employer when somebody starts a position, because these folks don't have the funds to get what they're needing to actually start their employment as well, whether it be steel-toed boots, even the proper clothing if they need a couple pairs of jeans or something. We are helping with that. Also with bus passes or gas cards for folks to get to work until they do receive their first paycheck. And some mileage reimbursement with the training for those that are driving their own vehicles and aren't receiving a wage because of going to training. And we do have our auto repair program to help those that are working, but maybe don't have the extra funds to fix their vehicles when they break down. And we don't want them to lose their jobs because they don't have a vehicle for a few weeks. So we do help with those repairs as well. Along with additional services for those with disabilities, through our Ticket to Work program and through the New York Scion program that we recently received funding from the state for, which was approved at the last meeting. In addition, for our young adults, ages 16 to 24, we do have our biggest part of our program is the paid work experience, where our youth can get 13 weeks of paid training at an actual business on the work site. Currently, we've had approximately 40 in the past year that have taken advantage of this. In the past few months, we've actually started working more with BOCES and their internship programs, so that there are students that have to take an internship during their final semester to get the credits that they need. They're actually partnering with us, and we are paying them a wage while they're doing it as well. And we have found that a lot of the businesses that these youth are getting their internships with are actually hiring them, or planning to hire them at the end of the school year as well. So that is a partnership that we've grown even more with BOCES, and I think this with the youth, it's just gonna get bigger and bigger, because it never actually happened before February. We did our first ones. So that's a good asset we have. We also help for young adults. We can help them get their permits, their driver's license, even with driver's education. We get them set up actually with Able2 is who we work with in the area. And we help with the DMV fees and our mentoring program that we have with OCO, so that these folks can have that one-on-one relationship with a positive adult role model in their lives, to really just help encourage them and get them set up with all of the other facets of life that they need in line, so that they can be successful in employment. And that's in addition to our summer youth employment program that's going to be kicking off shortly. Employing, we're hoping upwards of 150 youth during July and August. But we have access also for our adults, financial literacy, volunteering, tutoring, post-secondary education assistance, high school equivalency programs, leadership development, and entrepreneurial program. The final piece, the business services that we have, we do job postings. When I sent the numbers in for the report, we were at 108 that we had done since July. I know that is a higher number. I don't have an exact number of that. But any job postings that we get requested for businesses, we do put them on the New York State Job Bank. We put them on all of our social media pages, also emailing them out to clients, any of our other agency partners. So we are doing a lot of postings. We have set up recruitment events. We're starting to have about 1 or 2 a week. We did a multi-employer job fair in September at the War Memorial that we've put on with about 30 businesses. We are in the midst of planning another one for May 4th. And we're looking at upwards of 40 to 45 businesses to attend that, and it's actually almost full. We've had businesses actually calling us. And we also, on April 19th, I was actually approached by Nicole to help with human services, and we're having right at the Workforce Center a human services concentrated job fair with a number of employers from the area as well. Amazon has been coming on a bi-weekly basis since August, and they actually have a start date, an open date now. So they said they want to keep coming every other week, but they're going to attend our May 4th meeting as well. And we are still doing pre-assessments for novellas. They're not as frequent as Hudamaki, but they are still coming to us. We do those in-house for them. And our on-the-job training program, where businesses can receive anywhere from 50 to 100% of wage reimbursement for up to 13 weeks for new hires. We have done 35 since July. I have to say our business services rep, she has been working extremely hard and getting a lot of these businesses a lot of reimbursement for the wages for their new employees. I mean, it's our contracts range anywhere from $2,000 to I just signed it the other day. There was about $8,000. So it's helping the business out. It's letting them take a chance on an employee that maybe doesn't have every single skill that they're looking for, but it's getting a lot of people employed, because part of this, it does have to be a permanent position. So we have had a lot of movement in that.
Are they, the assessments for novellas, are they just, they're specific to novellas, or are they part of the ACT thing, or what are they?
They're actually still using the TABE test. We have a meeting set up with them in the next couple weeks to try and get them to use the metrics exam and move towards that. The ACT, I've been in talks with them and am in talks with OTDA to see if we can use that as a stepping stone for those that are receiving public assistance, and maybe make that a mandated activity for them. You're welcome. I did want to share just a few numbers on our jobs program for the public assistance recipients. We currently are working with, we have a full caseload of 774 clients. 434 of them are exempt from job searching and work activities for various reasons, whether it's medical or needing to provide care in the home. 258 of those folks are required to look for work, but it is with limitations. Sometimes that is around outpatient treatment or physical limitations as well. And then we have 82 clients on that caseload that are not exempt from job search, and they do not have any limitations. So that is 82 people out of that 774 that are fully employable. And
So
full-time
have the
positions.
state mandates in that regard changed? That we're,
No, that's just, I believe part of it is because there are so many jobs out there, and there are people, my next number is since, in all of 2021, from January through December, we did have 203 people that did enter employment and their public assistance cases closed. So that's definitely a positive. That was higher than 2020, and it was actually higher than 2019 as well. I think part of it is you do have businesses that are maybe willing to take a chance on somebody that hasn't had a consistent work history because they are in need. And businesses sometimes are not being as stringent on who they, in particular, who they're hiring. So it is helping, and I believe that is also why that number is so low, that are fully employable that we're working with. And also with wages increasing, the requirements needed to, the amount of money needed to be earned to have their case closes is they're reaching that quicker. An individual only has to work 10 to 12 hours a week to have their case closed.
So that's a good number. I'm impressed with that. You're gonna beat it next year, right?
That's the goal.
And congratulations. It's been a while since that number, that many that went through on our employee.
Yep.
That's good.
Anyone have any questions?
can you share the PowerPoint again with the committee,
Yes.
the original? That'd be good, because it didn't end up in this packet, it was in the draft packet.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's my understanding there was no further department update today? Thank you. Office of the Aging.
Good afternoon. I passed out before the meeting started, a couple of documents. The first one, I just wanted to make you aware of, there's no concerns per se, but I just want to make you aware of the rising fuel cost. We are keeping a good eye on home delivered meals, the meals program, because the nutrition services, it is causing an increase in their fuel costs for the delivery. Where it hasn't been a hardship yet, our volunteer delivery drivers are usually older people, so the cost of fuel is also affecting them and their ability to go out and do deliveries where they may have been called for a fill-in. Now they're not doing that fill-in, they're just doing their regular route. So there is a little bit of a concern there. Also, because the cost, everything trickles down. So the cost of fuel is affecting the cost of food. So seniors that previously said they didn't need home delivered meals now might find it more difficult to purchase food when they go out, or there's scarcity of the food items on the shelf for them to purchase. So we're concerned that that is going to increase the request for home delivered meals as well. We're not seeing it yet, but I just want to make sure I'm bringing it to your attention. This is something that we are keeping an eye on and making sure to let you know that we'll bring it to your attention if we do see an upward trend with that. We did get some numbers from Oswego as our contracted meal provider. Their fuel cost from February to March of last year compared to this year is a 33% increase. Food cost overall, they've had an 8% increase. And some items of mention is the cost of milk. That's a 13% increase. And they do 2 cartons of milk to each recipient every day. Canned fruits, the cost of canned fruit is just gone through the roof. So they are going to fresh fruit whenever they can, but it's had a 42% increase. And also meat, they've had a 9% increase in meats. So what that is equating to, they haven't requested an increase for a per meal cost, but they have tried to find alternatives. So some of the higher quality, high fiber breads, they're using quality that still meets the nutritional value that is needed. But that might be, you might be getting some calls regarding that too, or you may hear through the grapevine that they feel the quality of their meals is not as what it was, but it's sourcing those foods. Also fish, the fish that they previously used, they cannot find that any longer, so they have had to go to alternate sources. So we have heard back from some of the participants that they feel the quality is not at what it was previously. It is still the same nutritional value. They're still getting the same, what they need from the meal. It's just might be some, look different, and they feel the quality might not be as what it has been. And again, the fresh fruit as opposed to canned fruit. And as we get older, sometimes fresh fruit is not as easy to eat as a canned fruit product. But we are making concessions wherever they can. And again, I just wanted to bring this to your attention. There's OCO has not requested any additional funding to cover this, but like I said, I wanted to make sure you were aware of this. We have approximately 550 home delivered meal clients. We have approximately another 130 congregate meal participants. They're receiving the grab and go meals at the congregate sites as well. So it does affect a lot of our population. And again, we may see an influx of people requesting to receive meals as well due to the cost of everything that's going on. Is there any questions at all? On the back side, I just did a chart. It has our 2021 meals that were home delivered meal, and DAC stands for Dining Activity Centers. I don't have March numbers yet. It's still a little bit early to have those numbers in for all the meals that were provided. But our, 2021, we were still in COVID. So 2022, our numbers are dropping down a little bit, but we're still providing many more meals than we were in prior to COVID. But we are budgeted for 267,000 meals, and right now I don't see us, if we continue on the way we are right now, I don't see us being over meals, but like I said, I just want to make sure it was brought to your attention that it is something we're keeping an eye on.
So your donation end of that, is that still holding at all, or is that kind of drop off?
It's kind of steady. 2021 was a tremendous year for contributions to the meal program. 2022 started off a little weak, but it is starting to pick up. So certainly I think we'll make what we estimated for the year, but that is another thing to take into consideration as the cost of everything continues to escalate.
Right.
Their ability to contribute to the cost of meals may decline as well.
Right, and I don't think anybody looks at that as, a piece of the budget piece, but just it helps you.
Certainly, because it is, I do budget for 2022, I budgeted $120,000 for contributions, so if we don't meet that, that will be, have to be made up with other funds that we have.
Any other questions? Thank you.
I also wanted to talk about our age-friendly grant. At last meeting, I had mentioned that I'd bring a resolution before the committee for this month for age across all policies or friendly aging, health and aging across all policies. And
This has to do with the previous, in the draft packet was HSA
yes.
that we pulled.
Yeah. And I just wanted to give you a little background on that. we received an age-friendly planning grant in September of 2019 for $80,000. The OFA, Health Department and Planning, traveled to Albany on March 5th of 2020 for a collaborative meeting with other counties that received this grant as well, the State Office for the Aging. And we're getting ready to move forward full bore, and then COVID-19 hit. So all work halted on any planning or further work on the grant. Office for the Aging, we continue to participate in the online virtual learning collaboratives, but no work was put towards the grant itself because we just frankly didn't have the manpower to put towards planning this.
And the money has not been received.
Right, we didn't, with all of our grants, we don't receive any money up front, we voucher for it. So as expenditures happen, and we have not vouchered any of my time that has been put toward this grant. So we have not received any of the $80,000 to date.
How much work have you put into it?
Well, not a tremendous amount, but I would say that, the learning collaboratives were at least an hour and a half each month. We had a few that were daily or 3 days for the last couple of years, but just those learning collaboratives. We just had our first meeting with all of the key partners to discuss ranking the 8 domains. So that's our first working meeting that we've held, was just last week.
And Phil sent you some questions about it you're going to be able to answer for us later, or are you answering them today?
I think you might have just sent them this morning, or. Oh, no, I sent those last week, but.
It's okay.
I will address them. I'm sorry, I didn't prepare anything. Maybe in what I discuss the rest of these bullet items, I might touch upon it. I'm not sure. But in February 2021, I reached out to the State Office for the Aging and said, I don't think we're going to be able to have the time to be able to complete all the work that's needed and necessary for this grant, because it was through December 31st, 2021. They stated that they would provide a no-cost extension. They did not give a timeline on when the extension expired. They just said it's a no-cost extension, basically an open-ended extension, as long as we started the work on it. Reached out to community partners to see if anybody would be interested in taking the lead on this and the planning. Got some feedback. Getting ready to go out for RFP. The county, then we're no longer working with Onondaga County purchasing. We're starting our own purchasing department. I held off on getting any RFPs out until the department was set up. The RFP went out, no response.
No response?
No response. So again, in the fall, COVID-19 starts to pick up again. I don't have time my office doesn't have time to devote anything to the planning grant. We're just getting back to it now. One of the components of it is to have a resolution, and that's what we'll work towards. But the majority of it is getting community feedback on those 8 domains to see where the community, how do you feel we fit within these 8 domains? How do you feel housing is? How do you feel transportation is? How do you feel green spaces are? And then getting back with the community partners, saying, okay, this is where the community as a whole feels that work needs to be done. How do we think we can get to that? It's no county dollars. It's to see it could be small things. It could be, for walkability, maybe you want the crossing walk to be, that timer to be a little longer so people can get across the street. Maybe it's your sidewalks are wider so that a wheelchair or a motorized scooter can be easily accessible. Maybe it's housing, to make sure your housing is next to or close to or has transportation to a grocery store, so or to your healthcare provider. So it's just looking at it as a whole. And the county's done a lot of great work towards it already. I mean, we have Healthy Miles that are here in the county. We have The Transportation Coalition is doing the first mile, last mile to connect people to the services that they need. So there's a lot that's already gone on that can go in the plan to say, this is what we're doing, this is how we want to continue on with it. But it is a 3-year plan, needs to be written as part of this grant. So,
Okay,
that's where
so
we are.
you can answer those questions, and I think I may have sent you some questions too, and then we can revisit, you can kind of report back, and
Sure.
I can share all that information with the committee.
Certainly, certainly. But really, this is the first step. I see now that things hopefully are gonna continue on a more even keel with COVID-19. I know the health department has a little more staffing availability. I know the planning department as well has a little more staffing availability to help towards meeting these goals. Nicole was on the call with, or the Zoom meeting that we had last week, so there's a little more time and availability of the community to be able to come together for this as well, so.
Okay. Any further updates?
Yes, I also shared with you, we have our caregiver disability fair that's coming up in May, on Friday the 13th in May. We received a disability awareness grant, and this is part of one of the pieces to it. So we have aging and disabilities, the resources that are there so that people can come in and, again, because it's been a few years since we've been able to get together in person per se, to walk through, talk with the providers of the services. Aurora will be there, Arise will be there, aging services, housing will be there, to be able to provide information to the aged and disabled on what resources are available. OPWD will be there as well, I believe. So that's May 13th. On June 16th, we're having our longest day walk event. Again, it's in conjunction with the Oswego Farmers Market, so it'll be 4:30. We'll have Alzheimer's Association will be there. We'll have a little presentation, and then we'll walk around the bridges here in Oswego and have information available. Again, the longest day is June 21st, but Farmers Market is the 16th, so that's when we're having it. But it's to bring awareness to Alzheimer's disease, dementia diseases, and the longest day. If any of you have a loved one that is afflicted with a dementia or Alzheimer's disease, you know, sundown as soon as the sun starts setting is where you have some adverse effects.
What color?
I'm sorry?
What color are we wearing that day?
Purple.
Is it purple?
Yeah.
I get mixed up.
Purple.
I remember a few years ago, we went to do that, and a lot of people showed up in wheelchairs, and that was the year they tore all the intersections out.
Yes. Yes, that was a crazy year, but yes, but the sidewalks are all done now, and it's much nicer, more pleasant. Yeah. And I know the county still has COVID-19 test kits, but Office for the Aging also received some from the State Office for the Aging and Department of Health, so we did another, it's going out this week, I believe, another round of test kits out to our home delivered meals and senior home care clients. And we have enough, we're gonna be doing it again in July, because we checked the expiration date on the test kits, and we'll be able to do another round of distribution in July. So that's all that I have going on. Does anyone have any questions? Well, I have other things going on, but that's all I was updated. There's a ton happening about this.
So you got a lot of time you can spend on that grant.
Okay, if there are no questions for Sarah, I will look for the appropriate motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Any